When I was 18, I spent 2 months at a language school for foreigners in southern Germany. Due to a miscalculation on my part, after paying my bill, I was left with only 5 German marks. But instead of having my parents wire me money, I decided to hitchhike back to Denmark where my family was living. The trip took 5 days. That was what happened. But that's not what it felt like! Young Richard has spent time in the state of Württemberg, in the hamlet of Blaubeuren. At the place where mighty Danube pours out of the ground from a single spring wide enough and deep enough for 100 Ophelias to drown themselves at once without the one bothering the other. And he has been this time in the company of strange princes from distant lands. And here, too, he has wooed and won the beautiful Lorenza. Lorenza Dardanello di Torino. But alas, his fortune is used up. Wasted on gambling and drinking, and he must needs to Denmark. I must needs to Denmark. This is my quest. I will now sing of my quest. Of my quest! All that remains to him are 5 small silver pieces, not enough for a carriage, nor a horse. No, he must walk some and count on the kindness of strangers to give him a ride now and again. Friends give him a bit of bread, a bit of cheese, and a bottle of wine, and he is off. But what is this? The dwarf Samudio, the hideous, snarling, drooling dwarf Samudio will with him. Master, oh please, kind master, take me with you. Oh, wretched dwarf, oh, snivelling worm of a dwarf, I must needs to Denmark. But master, oh, kind master, I must need to go to Cologne. Let me go with you that far. Very well, worm. Whining, wheedling wretch of a worm. Hideous, snarling, drooling worm of a dwarf. This burthen must I bear, and bear it I shall. For though thy quest is not my quest, Still we share a way, and for as long as we share this way, thy quest is mine. And though I suffer by it, I shan't repent, for an elephant's faithful 100%. And so, bidding farewell to his friends, young Richard begins his journey. With an easy stride, light on his feet, the dwarf Samudio shuffles along behind, whining, wheedling. A light rain has fallen.
Master, do not walk so fast.
Oh, snivelling worm!
I am tired. I am wet.
Oh, hideous, snarling worm of a dwarf! Despite the hideous aspect of the dwarf, kind travellers help them along their way, and they arrive wet and weary at Stuttgart. They share a simple meal and then sit for a time in the great hall, where 'tis rumoured one-eyed dragons sometimes come. And then, rested and restored, they march on and leave the city behind, till finally, overcome by weariness, Richard casts himself down and falls instantly asleep. A light rain has fallen. The dwarf slithers off and came back with a taxi and took us back to the train station. Damn it! Young Richard was half asleep and confused and complied not willingly, but before he knew it, the dwarf had plied the dragon with gold, and they sat upon it, and it hurled them through space. And when Richard awoke, he was far away in a distant city. Oh, dwarf! Wretched dwarf! Snivelling worm of a dwarf! This was not my quest, nor my way. This was your quest! Damn it! And now I will sing of that quest, of your quest.
Of that quest, of your quest.
And then did the dwarf begin to drool. Hold on, that's not drool. Those are tears. And tears they were. And shed them he did, and never was such a wailing and whining heard in that aftershave of a city.
Oh, master, I could not leave you there in the grass in the rain. No, kind master, do not be angry. You are my only friend.
There, worm, don't snivel.
Master, kind master, my only friend.
Yes, there's a good hideous dwarf. No more snarling and drooling. There. And through his tears and wailing, the dwarf did tell of his wife, alone in that far land of Paraguay, and of his fears that she was unfaithful to him. For she was beautiful like unto Helen of Troy, while he was ugly like unto Troy, New York. And so we two parted on the banks of the Rhine, and though I pitied him, I was glad to be quit of him. And I was happy and light on my feet, for I knew not that
the worst was yet to come.
I stepped into an alehouse and gave a piece of silver for a cup of ale, and there did meet a butcher's son.
Hallo, I am the son of a butcher, and if you will but come with me, I will give you to choose a worst.
That will give you sustenance upon your journey.
And choose I did, among bratwurst, knockwurst, weisswurst, and more. And the choice was very meat, and the meat was very choice, but in choosing I could have chosen better. For though all were worst, some were good and some were worse. And I all unknowingly chose the worst, that being liver. 'Cause I hate liverwurst. Yet eat of it I did, and it gave me sustenance. Oh, wretched worst, oh, brown and squishy worst, now thou shalt be my burthen, and I shall bear thee, and we shall share a way, but as the way grows longer, thou shalt grow shorter, and as thou
Smaller, I larger.
I begin thee at an end, shall I not finish thee at the beginning? For though we share a way, mine is to the terminus, thine to the start. This is my quest, I think. Long and arduous was the journey that day for Richard and the worst. By nightfall they came to Dusseldorf. A light rain was fallen, and after walking to the centre of that city,
They stepped into the great hall of dragons
and rested a moment upon the express gepäck.
counter.
Hush! Some young gentlemen approach. Bist du zu Hause here? Are you at home here, sir? Is my informal position an affront to their customs? Do they call me out, and I with no sword? Only this worst for a weapon? But no. He interrupts my soliloquy with another query. Hark! Do you inhabit
This place?
Certainly not. I am but a sojourner here. Not this hall, this city. No, good sirs. I must needs to Denmark. Then you are Dane? I hesitate. The land from whence I come is unknown here. Unheard of, undiscovered as yet. For in those days before inflation the world was flat. But what is this? Once more he interrupts my soliloquy with yet another query. What ho! Hark, hark! I say again, good sir, are you Dane? And do you not gainsay me, good sir, great sir? Then in not so deigning, I say you are in truth Dane, good Dane, great Dane. Roof! It shall be as you have spoken. And so young Richard did deny heritage and homeland, and the truth sped from him as the innards of a caterpillar when one trods upon it. Good sirs, let me tell you of my plight.
I have but worse to eat, and nowhere nice to sleep. I'm poor, I shiver, my worst is liver, and tastes like bleep.
But good Dane, we are students in this land, and we know of a house where students are welcome. Take this epistle to the night watchman, and he will give you lodging. And with that he epistulated an epistle, and giving it to me, wished me fare thee well. Fare thee well, good Dane, great Dane, roof! In the morning I was not refreshed, and the worst was not refreshed.
The worst gets worse and worse. Last night I dreamed it burst. Oh, woe is me, this pungency will be my curse.
And yet did I eat of it, and it was my worst nightmare. That night I arrived in Hamburg, weary beyond measure, for the burthen seemed to grow heavier by the hour. It was dark, and a light rain was falling. I chanced to remember a parchment bequeathed to me by my brother, listing persons with whom he was acquainted, and yet, alas, I knew not which was enemy, which friend, which to be sought out, from which to flee, which scoundrel, which stout fellow. But there, from the page upon me, fairly leapt one name, Wolfgang of Hamburg. I stepped into an inn and gave my last farthing for an ale. After the quaffing, I consulted with the innkeeper. I said, "Hey, bartender, knowest thou this name and this place?"
Yeah, I know it. It's right around the corner.
I took this as a sign and got me to that place. I knocked, and Wolfgang opened. "I am the brother of Jonathan. I am Jonathan's brother. My father had at least 2 sons, of whom I am one and Jonathan another. My 4 great-grandfathers, 2 of whom never met the other 2, begat amongst them 17 children, of whom—"
That's enough. Come in.
Thereupon he welcomed me and sat me unto his hearth, and I rested. Then he brought me bread with wurst upon it. And though this was wurst, 'twas better than mine, for it was not the worse for wear, and wearing it the bread also was better, though neither could have been worse than the worst that I was bearing breadless, and I thanked him for it. In the morning, Wolfgang took me to see wondrous things in that city. Bridges, lakes, rivers, and such buildings as those people construct, one of which was most ornate, dark, forbidding, and grand. It was the rat house. Yuck! Gross! Pfft! Nicht House of the Rats, sondern House of the Advice. I'd advise you to change the name. Bidding farewell to Wolfgang, I pressed on. That day I came but to Flensburg, scant 20 leagues hence. Ah, Flensburg! The name caught in my throat. My senses were full of it. My nose was full of it. I wanted to sing of it, but my throat was full of it. Nicht Flensburg, sondern Flensburg. Oh, sorry. Even as I walked, my burthen grew heavier. It was dark, and yet I walked on. I must needs to Denmark. I walked on, darker and darker, into gloom I went. A light rain was falling. The worst was heavy, heavy as the philosopher's stone. I thought of the merry fellows whose carriage I had shared that day. As I walk here, they are surely in their rooms sharing wine and song and maids. We could share my worst. I turned and began the long trek back to Flensburg. Flensburg. The worst was heavy, heavy as a stoned philosopher. When I reached the place where the young men lived, it was past the witching hour. Witching hour? Witching hour? I forget. But what riddle was this? On the door was not the name of my acquaintance nor his comrades, but his father. And yet not his father, but his father's name. No carousing could I hear, no song, nor clinking glass, nor giggling maid. This riddle I could not answer, so I lay by the door and slept as I could. awakened in the morning by the arrival of milk. A light rain was falling. That day I crossed into Denmark, and the sun shone, and I lay my burden down. I told my parents of my journey. See, I only had 5 marks. That's about $1.25 American, and it took me 5 days. That's nice, dear. Nice? 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 Wait, you don't understand. This isn't nice. This is my quest. There were to be other adventures for young Richard. Other journeys, other dangers. But never again would he be 18 years old and in love with Lorenza Dardanello, beginning his first quest.